So it's been about a month or so since I uploaded anything to my main channel, mainly due to the fact that nothing's really worth uploading about, and my channel is incredibly small. Even though it has 1,000 subs, I only get like, what, 30 views a video? Which is to be expected because my channel is trash. So with that said, this is my next upload. It's a RC airplane I made out of a $20 quad. Believe it or not, as you'll see in this video, this thing does in fact fly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to charge it up and record it flying, and then I'll basically come back with a basic overview of this thing. I want to try and keep this video relatively simple and short. Alright, so I'm out in the field behind my house, and I'm going to go and show how this thing flies. I can't even tell if I even got in shot due to the sun. Need to get this out of the sun, and I need to get out of the sun now. There we go. Now I can see what I'm doing. Now, unfortunately, the way this one's designed, I can't really use full rudder, because as you can tell, it takes quite a bit more space to actually get this thing to turn with just rudder commands. So normally I'll be flying this thing with both rudder and the other commands too. Like for instance, right now I gotta do it to get this thing to turn because of the wind. I think I might actually cut the flight video this short because it's really difficult to fly this thing just on rudder with the wind. But as you clearly can tell, the thing does fly. One thing I will do is I will show the stalling. So I'll turn this thing around and go full throttle and just show what this thing does. Okay, I'm going full throttle. Well, actually I had to cut it because I was going to go into the field. Then I can't really get into that field to get it back. So let me get a little more closer, farther away from the field. Okay, I'm going full throttle. That's pretty much all it does. It doesn't even tip stall. It just goes straight up and then just basically does whatever what it's called. Good grief, I can't speak. Yeah, it's practically impossible to fly this thing with just rudder commands, unfortunately. But it does fly, and that's a good thing. So yeah, I think I'll just end the video here. So hopefully, even with that part of the video being so convoluted, you more or less got a chance to see how this thing actually flies. And relatively speaking, this thing flies fairly well. Granted, like I said, I really can't fly it with just rudder commands. I have to use both rudder and the yaw commands of the quad to get this thing to properly turn right in the wind. But relatively speaking, this thing is quite simple. Here's the main quad board. I have it not exactly centered, which does bug the snot out of me, but it does fly nonetheless. I'm going to leave it as is. The two inner motors are the front of the quad. The two outer motors are the back of the quad. That's how I set these things up. I don't know if you can actually get this thing to fly with just two motors, but since I have four, since I took apart a quadcopter and the quadcopter has four motors, why not use all four for extra power? Even though it does make it slightly more heavier, it does allow me to have a lot more power under the hood than just using two engines like a few other YouTubers have done in their past when they've basically converted an RC quad into an airplane. I'm talking about you, Peter Sponhor, you pronounce your name, you made a paper aircraft of two engines. It's a joke, you need four. But with that said, like I said, this thing flies relatively nicely for, again, it just being a cheap foam board airplane. The main thing that amazes me is that I'm using the Elmer's foam board you can get at Walmart. This foam board is a lot more stiffer and a lot more sturdier than the dollar store stuff, but it's also a lot it's also a lot more heavier. And this plane's relatively heavy for its size, and yet it flies fantastic. It flies really well. Granted, again, I wasn't able to really show how well this thing flies because I had my camera in one hand and the controller in the other hand, and I was trying to fly with rudder, and it was near impossible practically. But yeah, for a homemade RC airplane made out of a $20 quadcopter from a local grocery store, I'm very impressed with how well this thing flies and how relatively stable this thing is, even in the wind. So yeah, at least now I have another video on my YouTube channel. Hopefully this video is under 10 minutes too.